Gerard has a question here. Can you show me a way to buy or sell a contract based on either the price touching a moving average or price residing between two moving averages, such as a 3 or 5 SMA? Let's see. Alright, so Gerard, let's see. We do have there is an older video. It's actually over a year old now, of a moving average bounce system that I did in a workshop. So let's go find that. Alright, so let's see. Over here on the right, let's see these quick links here. Let's see, where am I looking for? Let's see, I'll just go back up to the support and let's go down to the training workshops, and I'm going to go into the workshop videos. I'm going to have to scroll down a little bit because, let's see, this video was done I believe in October of last year. Yep, here we go. So here's the moving average bounce 2. So it's a slight modification of the original workshop. So here's the moving average bounce, or you could say a moving average rejection, some people might call it. So here's the original workshop video, and you can see there's template files here. So there's the BloodHound file and a chart template file. So this is the NinjaTrader chart template file. And so let's see, hopefully I have this already in here. So let me take a quick look and see if I have this. There we go. This looks like it, the moving average bounce. So I guess, you know what, I guess this would be helpful for some people. So I'm going to take a step back and let's go find that again. So let me go back to the home page, and what I'll do is I'll walk you guys through the steps of where you would save those files, those downloadable files. Alright, so let's go to support here, and oops, I didn't want to do that. Alright, so back to the workshop videos, and let's scroll back down to October. Now keep in mind, you know, this BloodHound, this moving average bounce system was, you know, built on a moving average, but, you know, with some slight modification, you could also use it for such as like a moving average, I mean, sorry, not a moving average, a MACD zero line rejection, right? Just by, well, simply substituting, you know, the moving average, which I believe I used in EMA or SMA, you know, so in this BloodHound system you could just replace the moving average with the MACD indicator and use the zero line if you're looking for like a MACD zero line rejection, you know, or any kind of you know, price bouncing off of some kind of indicator. You know, this this BloodHound file could be like your template to help you work out to work, you know, with whatever kind of you know, you could also, this BloodHound file uses price to bounce off a moving average, but you know, you could replace price in this BloodHound system with an indicator, so you could be looking for an indicator bouncing off of another indicator as well. Alright, so back to what I was going to show you guys. Alright, so so you have this download button, and so what I wanted to show you is where to save this file to. And you know, so I'm using Chrome, and by default Chrome just automatically saved this file into the downloads folder. So what I can do is in Chrome, right, I could show the folder, right, so that just opened up my downloads folder here, right, and it highlighted my file. So what I can do is I can cut this file, cut it, or so what I did is I right clicked on it, or I can go up to edit and hit cut, and then next thing I want to do is I want to go find my NinjaTrader folder. So I'm going to documents, right, so I'm going to go into NinjaTrader 7, and then you want to put it into templates, and then into BloodHound. Alright, so I'm in my, you can see here I'm in my NinjaTrader 7 templates and BloodHound folder. And just to point out, that's what this text says right here. So this text says right here to save it to your NinjaTrader 7 templates BloodHound folder. So now that I'm in here, next I want to paste that file. And so there we go. I just pasted that BloodHound file in there. And then these are the NinjaTrader's chart templates. Right, so I can click on that button and it saved this chart template. And so what I want to do is I need to once again open up, right, so this is the Windows file browser right here. So I can right click on this here, I can hit the cut, and then go back to my documents, and then go into NinjaTrader 7, into templates, and this time this is a chart template. I need to go into the chart folder, and then I can paste the file in there, and there's the file in the correct folder. And once again, this, you know, shows you to save it into the chart folder here. Alright, so let's get back to the original question here. So let me load up that chart template. Alright, so here's that chart template that I just downloaded. And alright, and we can see that the BloodHound file updated as well. So when I loaded that chart template, it also loads the correct BloodHound files. And let's kind of scan through here and see if there's any signals. Oh yeah, you know what, it's not going to work because this particular file was set to look for like right here. You know, we're probably, let's see, you know, well, visually this looks close, but the BloodHound system was set to recognize price getting within I think something like 4 or 3 ticks, but this is actually probably something more like 50 ticks away, because remember, I'm dealing with Apple, so this is probably like a 30-cent difference between the high of the bar and the moving average. So we're not going to get any signals using Apple. So let me switch this back to let's move this back to oil, I guess. And let's see, let's put this on like what, a 5 range. There we go. Now we got some signals. So now the high of this bar is within a few ticks of the moving average. So now we're getting the signals here. So hopefully that answers it. So Bob's got a question here. This ought to be a good one. When using Raven, can you give an example of using exit logic with a trailing stop? For example, an ATR trailing stop. Let's see. So Bob, just for a little bit of clarification, are you wanting BloodHound's exit logic to be the trailing stop, or are you wanting to use both an exit logic and Raven's trailing stop both at the same time, or you just want to try and build the trailing stop into the exit logic only, would be my question. And so what I'll do is I'll give Bob a moment to kind of clarify exactly what he's wanted to do, and in the meantime I'll pull up Raven here. Let's get rid of that. Alright, so let's add Raven onto this chart here. So for those of you who are new to Raven, I'll show you what Bob's talking about. So Bob is talking about, looks like, using this exit logic. Right, so with Raven, let me load up a template here, and since I have the moving average bounce, I'll load that up. So let's load this one up. So we're working with the same BloodHound file in Raven as we are in BloodHound. And entry. Okay, great. So I have the a logic template called entries, and so if I want to specify, which logic template to use to enter a trade, I can use this parameter right here, the entry logic, and I can set it to entries. And that's the only logic template I have. So I don't have one on here for exits. So I don't have one that I can use for an exit logic. But I could make one real quick. Let's see. So, alright, so Bob is saying anything other than a fixed stop loss. Let's see, just don't want price to reverse after not reaching the target, and then have it go all the way to the stop loss. Right, exactly. Well, Bob, if you do have an exit logic, you can use an exit logic, and you can use a hard stop loss. So I could put a hard stop loss of, let's see, if I use something short, let's put a profit target in there, 25, and then I can use this trailing stop, So if I'm going to use a trailing stop, maybe I should loosen it up a little bit. I'll set it to 15 there. And let's see. So I'm going to modify this file here. Well, before I do that, okay. Alright. So let me just get this thing going. Alright, so let me add another indicator on here. See if I have the super trend on here. Let's see, is the T3 the right one? Let's see. Bob, do you have a name of an indicator that's kind of like an ATR, kind of acts like an ATR trailing stop? Let's see, the T3 may work. Let's see, TS Supertrend. Let's see that one. Yeah, here we go. I'll use the TS Supertrend. Alright, let's remove the T3. And let me thicken this plot up a little bit. Make it a little easier to see in the black background. And alright, so let's use the TS Supertrend. Let's see, Randy's saying the Anna Supertrend. I'm not sure I have that one. So, alright, so I'm going to use, I'll just use this one here since this is what I got, guys. Alright, so we'll turn this TS Supertrend into our exit strategy. Alright. And so let me kind of make a a clarification here for new people. So I have this BloodHound file loaded up twice, right? So I have it loaded into BloodHound, right? BloodHound as an indicator, right? So what I'm seeing on the chart here is, right, this is BloodHound as an indicator, but I also have, let's see, darn it, let me load my data feed back up here. Alright, so with my data feed, now I can pull my strategy back up. Okay, so what I was pointing out is that I also have this BloodHound, same BloodHound file loaded into, actually, you know what? They are slightly different. Look at this. This one has a dash in it, and this one doesn't have a dash in it. So let me back up a moment and let's load up the same file. Yep. Okay, so I have the same file loaded into both now. Alright, so the point I'm trying to make is that in Raven, I have the same file loaded up twice. And they're loaded into two different components in NinjaTrader. Right, so this is a strategy. This window here, right, is my strategies window, and then we have on the chart, right, we have BloodHound loaded as an indicator. So even though I have the same file loaded, if I make changes to one file, it doesn't update the file loaded anywhere else. So if I make changes here, so I'm going to make changes to the file in the strategy, and you'll see that it's not going to update the file loaded into BloodHound as an indicator. So it's not going to make changes to this file that's already loaded into BloodHound. It's only going to make changes to the file that I have loaded in Raven here. So this is something to be aware of when you have the same file open in multiple times. Alright, so back to making an exit logic. Alright, so let's make this exit logic. And let's see. Excuse me for a moment. My voice is getting a little harsh and I need to cough. Alright, so what I'm going to do to make this exit logic is I'm going to use the comparison solver. And looks like Jeremy needs the data feed for something. Alright. So in this comparison solver, alright, for my exit logic, let's see, let's call this the TS. I don't like long names, so I was going to abbreviate super trend as ST. TSST comparison. And so I'm just going to simply compare the closing price to the TS super trend. And let's see, so with a downtrend, we would be short. So I want a long signal from the downtrend plot, I believe. I'm pretty sure that this downtrend plot here is the red plots when we're in a downtrend. So as soon as the downtrend is detected, right, I want to exit any long, open long position. So therefore, oops, actually I want a short signal. Yeah, so I need a short output from BloodHound. I need a short signal from BloodHound. That way the short output will exit long open positions, an open long position. And if we're in a short position, right, if we're in a short position here, and then the indicator switches to a long or an uptrend, then I want to exit that short position with a long signal. So therefore I want a long there. And let's see, I think that should do it. So remember, I'm working inside BloodHound, inside of Raven. So that modified the system inside of Raven. But let's see, you can see it's not going to see that exit logic that I just made doesn't show up here. So what I'm going to have to do is reload this file. So now I'm working, right, I use the button on the chart. So now I'm working within BloodHound as the indicator on the chart. So I'm not working inside the strategy anymore. So I'm going to reload this file here. And now if I go to my logic tab, there's that exit logic that I just built. So I had to reload the file back into BloodHound. Now BloodHound, that's loaded as the indicator. And so now let's take a look here. And I need to hit F5 because I reloaded it. And so there we go. So here's our exit logic that I just built. So if we were in a short trade, you know, anywhere in here, and then the TS indicator, you know, flips to an uptrend, then all these long signals here will exit any open long position. All right. So now we have an exit logic built for Bob's question. All right. So I'm going to connect again to my data feed. That way I can get into the strategy. Alright, so let's see. Let's open up the strategy. So there's Raven. Alright, so now this exit logic, now that I just built an exit, right, an exit logic, and I called it exit logic, and so we'll set it to that. And also we have a profit target, a stop loss, a fixed stop loss, and we turned on the trailing stop loss. And the next step is we need to turn back test mode on, so I can back test this. Let's back test this. Let's see. So we'll turn this on to true. Leaving this false, right? Enter only when flat. So if you leave this false, that will allow the system to reverse trades. It'll allow Raven to reverse your open positions. So if you set this to true, then Raven has to wait until you're flat before Raven will enter a new trade. Before Raven will enter a new open position, it has to wait till you're flat. So this prevents, so if I set this to true, that would prevent Raven from automatically reversing your trades. But I'm going to just leave this on, leave that on false. Alright, let's turn this on, and let's see what happens here. And alright, just trying to remember which one of these is the strategy. Alright, so the one on the bottom. Yeah, so the one on the bottom is Raven. The one on top is the indicator. Right, BloodHound has the indicator, and this one is Raven, and this one is BloodHound. So let's put Raven on as, the entry, right, the entry signals. And let's make sure I have my flags turned on. Okay, so you need to turn on the markers, text and markers there. Alright, so now we see the trades going on here. And let's see, let's take a look at this one trade right here. It looks like Yeah, so right here, stretch this out a little bit. Hopefully I can get the text out of the way. Alright, so hopefully you can see this text okay. Right, so we have a long trade here. So we did get, remember the red moving average, right, is what we're looking for price to bounce off of. So this was our long trade here. So it went long, and then what happened was our TS super trend indicator changed to a downtrend, which triggered our exit logic, and so then Raven exited at the open of the next bar and closed the position out based on the exit logic. So let me take a look through here and see if we can find any stop outs. Yeah, so what happened here is we got a short trade. So Raven took a short entry, but because our exit logic told us to exit short positions, so Raven just closed it out immediately on the next bar. That's what happened there. And here we go. So right here we did get our stop loss hit. Right, you can see on the text it says stop loss. So we've got both the stop loss working and the exit logic working all at the same time. Alright, so Bob, I hope that answers your question. Let's see, I'm going to look through here to see if there's any comments from Bob. All right, good, thank you, Bob. So it looks like that addressed Bob's question. Cool. All right. So let me close out of that question, and let me see if there were any comments coming in while I was working on this. Let's see, Randy, doesn't matter. Okay. So it looks like some people had some suggestions to use instead of this TS super trend, but so I can delete those. Alright, so let's move on here. Let's see, Bercies is asking, oh, no, that was a comment on an earlier question. Alright, let's see, alright, here's a simple one. So, normally I don't get too much into NinjaTrader type questions, because this isn't a forum for learning NinjaTrader. But Bercy was asking, how did I make the candles thicker without the keyboard? Well, so if you have your mouse down here on the timeline, you can see, hopefully you can see my mouse moving down here. So I'm going to move it down here onto the timeline. And you just use the left mouse. So I'm dragging is what I'm doing, is I'm clicking down and I'm holding down, and you can drag to make the candles a little thicker and thinner. All right, so you're compressing the timeline or expanding the timeline is what I did. And every once in a while you still need to make the candles a little thicker, I think, sometimes. You know, but you can just learn to use the keyboard controls for that, which are the control up arrow does this, control down arrow, and then if I hold the alt key down, you can see it's making the bars thicker and thinner. And so this is alt up arrow, this is alt down arrow, makes them thicker. So just some quick ones there. All right. Okay, so it looks like I have a question from Mike here. If you create an entry logic template and an exit logic template, how do you join them together? Let's see. Mike, it sounds like that's a misunderstanding, that question. So you don't want to join them together. If you join them together, then what's going to happen is you might end up with something like where Raven would immediately exit your entry signal immediately. So you actually want to keep them separate. So hopefully this, example from Bob kind of gave you an example of how to use an entry logic and an exit logic, and hopefully it showed that you want to keep them separate. All right, so let me open up. Remember this button here. This one is BloodHound as the indicator. And this button came from Raven, the strategy. So let's see. I'll just work on. I'll work on BloodHound as the indicator. And so on the logic tab, right? You can see I have two different logic templates here. So I have the entries. Right. So the one I labeled entries is this moving average bounce system. And right, and so you can see on the chart, it's providing these simple entry signals. And let's see if I can find some more here, some cleaner ones. All right, so as price came down and bounced off of our red moving average here, it gave us a long entry signal. And then, excuse me, and then I built a separate exit logic. As you can see here, when I switched over, you can see here now this is my exit logic, which is just a very simple basic one based off of this TS Supertrend. So this short signal that you're seeing being painted across the chart, right? The short signal will only exit a long position. It'll only exit a long trade. So if let's see. Well, I don't have any. Let's see if I can find a short trade. Here we go. So hopefully you can see that there's a long entry or a short entry signal here, right? There's 3 short entry signals. Now this short exit signal will not exit your short position. All right, so you don't have to worry about your exit. I don't have to worry about this short exit signal interfering with a short open position, with a short entry. So hopefully, Mike, that kind of cleared it up for you. Let's see, Victor's asking, where is your workshop on creating a Ninja DOM strategy for automatically entering a trade? Victor, there is no such thing as a Ninja DOM strategy. You know that the ATM, the only strategy that runs on the DOM is NinjaTrader's ATM. Raven, which is a strategy, strategies only run on charts. They don't run on the DOM. So Victor's saying yes, ATM. No, Victor, we don't have ATM strategies. Raven allows you to use an ATM strategy within Raven, but once again, that's in the strategy component. So if I load up, let me open up Raven here, and let's see, let me disable this so that way we can get into the interface. So a Raven allows you to use an ATM instead of these fixed profit targets and stop losses. So if you don't want to use this, if you want to use your own ATM, so that way you can submit multiple, submit an ATM, so that way you get multiple profit targets, right, or multiple stop losses. What you can do is in the trade management, you can switch this over to ATM, and then in here you can type in the you can type in the name of your ATM that you have. So one suggestion, obviously you got to make sure that you type the name exactly the same. Make sure this name is exactly the same. One suggestion I would have is don't use special characters in your ATM name, right? So I wouldn't use the hyphen, I wouldn't use the underscore or the backslash. Try and stay away from special characters in your ATM name. So you can go something like my ATM, like that, and that's how that works. And Victor, just keep in mind, most people don't know this because most people don't get thoroughly trained in NinjaTrader enough, because usually running a strategy is usually new for most people. But if you watch NinjaTrader's training videos on using a strategy, you would know that you can't backtest an ATM. Also, if you read their help documentation on using an ATM, that also explains that you can't backtest an ATM strategy as well. At least you can't backtest it on, so if I hit OK here, you can't backtest it on a static chart. So if I wanted to backtest that ATM, what I would have to do is I'd have to use the replay market. I would have to switch over and connect to my market replay and use that data in order to backtest an ATM strategy. All right. So, all right, Victor. So I hope that kind of answers your question. Let's see. I wonder if maybe as I'm answering some questions, I can get a quick example of an ATM firing off here. So let's so let me find, I need to find the name of an ATM here that I can use. So I'm going to turn my chart trader on. Right, so something else to be aware of, you can't run chart trader and a strategy at the same time. You'll notice that, all right, on this chart here, right, I have Raven, well, let's see, I have a strategy loaded. It's not actually turned on, but just the fact that I have a strategy loaded on this chart, you can see that my chart trader button is disabled. So you can't run both at the same time on the same chart. Looks like I should create myself a simple ATM strategy here. Let's run and let's see, a stop strategy. Alright, so there's a quick break-even strategy. So I'll set both of these to let's break even at 10 and alright, so I'll save that real quick. Alright, so there's a quick ATM. So let's plug this ATM into Raven. And we'll need to turn the strategy back on here, enable it. And so we can demonstrate the ATM. I'm going to turn my exit logic off. I'm going to turn my exit strategy off. And we want to forward test this, so let's turn the back test mode off. Right, I think that should do it. Let me get rid of this guy. And, oh, alright, the next thing I needed to do, hold on. I'm going to change my entry logic here real quick, so that way I get some signals firing off right away. So how about if, let's see if I have clear, alright, I'm just going to make a simple strategy here. So let's just make a simple reversal strategy. So how about if I just use the bar direction? No, that might be reversed too much. Let's see. Alright, how about if I'll use the inflection solver, and I'm going to set the inflection solver to to the closing price. Alright, and I'll change my entry logic over to that simple reversal logic template that I just made. And let's see, it's not, and I gotta remember to turn this back on. Alright, so now we're just gonna have to wait for a signal here. And I'll load the same file into BloodHound that's loaded on the chart here. So let me use this button here, So remember, this is BloodHound that's loaded onto the chart as an indicator. And let me just load up this BloodHound file, and I'll switch it over to the simple logic template. Now I don't have to do this. The only reason why I'm doing this is because you can see that the racing stripes on the chart aren't matching all these entry signals that I just made up real quick for Raven. So I just want them to match. That's the only reason why I'm switching this over. You don't have to. All right, Raven is still going to trade the signals, right, that we see on this lower panel here. So, but just so that it looks visually correct on the chart is the reason why I'm doing this. And all right.
Order filled.
There we go. Okay, so there, just fired off our ATM. So we can watch that in the background. One thing to note is we're still working on figuring out how to automatically scale the price panel, because you can see the profit targets, right, but you can't see that stop loss, and that's because the scaling, we haven't found out how to automatically scale correctly. So if I just slide the chart up, right, so once again I'm holding the control key down, and you can see my mouse is on the price on the price section of the chart, right here. So if I hold the control key down and use my mouse button, I can slide the chart up and down, and so now you can see the stop losses are there. They were just off the chart, right? They're out of the scaling. So I'll leave it here for now, and while you guys watch this thing in action, I will look through some of these other questions here. So Scott's got a question here.
Order filled.
And looks like we're in a little bit of chop on oil right now. So hopefully we'll see this thing hit some profit targets. Alright, so let's see. Scott is asking, I tried using a BloodHound template and it worked. When I tried to customize it to my charts, I got no BloodHound indications. So I take it, Scott, you mean that you didn't get any BloodHound signals. You didn't get any BloodHound signals such as what you see here on the chart. So then Scott goes on to say, when I switched it back, it works again. I could not understand what I did wrong since I used the sample template as a model. Well, Scott, there's a lot of information kind of missing from your question here. So when you say I tried to customize it to my chart, it really kind of, that customization could be anything. So I kind of need to know exactly I need to know, what demo template you were using. What customization did you do to the chart? Did you change the instrument? Did you change the time period? Hopefully, Scott, hopefully, if you remember back, so you changed, okay, so Scott said he changed the indicator. Okay, let me think about that. But to give you another example, so Scott, when you remember back at the beginning of the workshop here, right, I had, let me pull up another chart so I'm not interfering with this one right here. Let's see. I'll use this one. So Scott, hopefully you remember at the beginning of the workshop, I pulled up an apple chart. And I pulled up that apple chart with that moving average bounce system. And remember, the apple chart, also I had switched it to a daily chart with Apple. And let me switch this back. And let's see, let me load that template again with the moving average bounce signal. And I can show you at least one of the things that might help you understand why you weren't getting any BloodHound signals after making some changes. Right. So the big thing about the reason why I'm not going to get any signals on this chart here, let's see. You know, like I should be getting a signal here, because when you look at this chart, right, it looks like we could be getting a moving average bounce, because we did get a down bar here. And let's see if there's any other. Oh yeah, here we go. This looks perfect right here. Right, you would think, hey, we should get a short signal bounce off of that red moving average. But the reason why this BloodHound template doesn't work on this Apple chart is because we're dealing with a daily chart, and so oops, look at that, I'm covering up this, let's see here, let's shrink this. Alright, so I had one profit target hit, so there you go. So hopefully that shows shows you guys how the ATM works within Raven. Oh, let me turn the global crosshairs off. There we go. Alright, so back to kind of trying to address a part of Scott's question here, since I don't know the details of it. Alright, let me scroll back on the chart and look at that bounce off the moving average. So here we go. So let me scale this up here. And I'm going to set, let's see, yeah, I have that set to 5 ticks. Let's set this to, let's see how 10 cents. No, it's still too much. Alright, let's try 25 cents. And that's still too much. Alright, let's set this to points. So this is going to be on $1. Alright, there we go. So I have my horizontal line set to a dollar increment. Alright, so we can see from the moving average up to the high of that bar, you know, that's about $1.80. So that's 180 ticks. That's about, you know, 180 ticks difference from the high of the bar to the moving average. And so this BloodHound, so this is one of the example templates here, this BloodHound moving average. And you know, if I look at the logic of this, let's see, yeah, here we go. these guys right here. So these solvers here are detecting when our price, gets within a certain range of our moving average, right? So these two logics determine when price gets close to our moving average, and then we can start looking
Order canceled.
looking for.
Target order filled.
So when price gets close to our moving average, then we can start looking for a bounce off of it. But if we look at how these solvers are set up, they're only set up to look for.
Order filled.
They're only set up to look for 3 ticks of difference, and this solver is set up to look for 3 ticks. So we're looking for price to get within 3 ticks of this moving average. However, on the Apple chart, we're 180 ticks away. So that's why this system, as it is, wouldn't work on a daily chart. If you wanted to use this on a daily chart, you would kind of have to look at the volatility of your instrument and probably do some changes to these 2 comparison solvers here, and instead of using ticks, you'd probably want to use points. So that way you could look for price, so you could look for the Apple price getting within a couple of bucks or a couple of points. So you kind of have to know what your instrument's point value is versus its tick value as well. So Scott, that could be that's probably the most common thing that causes a BloodHound system not to work from one chart to another chart. Is when you increase your time frame. When you increase your time frame, well, these price movements are going to increase as well. So one solution that we have for that is, instead of using ticks, what I could use is I could set this up to an ATR, and I could use an ATR. So right, and your ATR is going to vary based on your chart's time frame. So now you can see when I used a 3 ATR, now we got some signals here. Now we're getting some signals, and I can tell that a 3 ATR probably is too much. I probably should scale this down, and let's see, I typically I think I'm going to scale the ATR period down, but let's try something more like a 1 ATR. See how that works. Yeah, so that 1 ATR is a little better. At least it got rid of this signal over here. So you can fine tune. So using an ATR, using this ATR setting, makes your system more adjustable, more compatible with other time frames. So maybe Scott, that would be probably a suggestion to look through some of the solvers and seeing if they're using a fixed tick level and switching them over to an ATR setting instead. All right, so I can take both of these and switch this over to an ATR, and I'll just set it to a 1 ATR for now.
Order filled.
There, so I just changed the large amount and small amount to a 1 ATR, and that kind of makes this moving average bounce a little more compatible with other time frames. So, alright, so looks like Scott's got a bunch of comments in here. Alright, so good. It looks like I answered Victor's question here using the ATM. And alright, so back to Scott. So Scott said he changed the indicator. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so Scott, if you change an indicator on, an indicator that's being used, like for example, if I go in and change that, this EMA, and I want to use, I don't know, 100 period, right? Well, now if we look at the signal, it makes no sense because we're not close to the 100 period EMA. Well, just keep in mind that if you change the indicator on the chart, you also need to go and make sure that you change the settings in BloodHound. Right, so you can see these two solvers. So these two solvers, they're the way I have them named. You can tell that these two solvers are using the EMA 55. Right, you can see right here, this solver is using the EMA 55. So I have to change the indicator period as well. So I would need to change both of these over to a 100 period EMA in order for the system to make sense. Okay, so now those signals went away,
Order filled.
and it's making a little more sense. And kind of looks like I still broke something because I don't have a signal there. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm kind of doing some testing to see why I don't get a moving average bounce signal right here. So what I did, let me get myself organized. So what I did is, you can see this OR node is labeled signals. So I wanted to make sure that at least these two solvers here are detecting when price gets close to the moving average, and I can see that part's working. So it looks like one of these other solvers connected into this AND node is preventing the signal from happening. So let's take a look here. Alright. So on all of these bars here, I can see I have short signals here. And so I want to check these individual solvers to see which of these solvers is not giving me a short signal into this AND node. And that'll be the solver that probably needs some working with. Oh, here we go. It's probably this guy right here. See, look at this. I've got another comparison solver here that's using an EMA 55. So I think I just found it. So let's connect the AND node back up, and let's disconnect this guy and see if it works now. There we go. Yeah, see, so I needed to change this solver as well over to a 100 period EMA. Alright, so let's plug that back in there, and now we can see it's working now. So with everything connected up correctly, we can see now we're getting this signal here. So Scott, hopefully that gives you some kind of examples of some things to test, things to check for when you're with that demo template that you're working with. And I'm just going to read through some of Scott's comments here, see if he's got any other clarifications he needs. So let's see, Scott is saying instead of a moving average crossover, he wants to use trigger lines. Trigger lines. Let's see, Scott, are you talking about next-gen trigger lines? You know, trigger lines is a pretty subjective term. Yes, all right, so Scott, looks like Scott's been working with the guys over at NextGen.
Order filled.
Yeah, so Scott, there's a couple of workshop videos that use trigger lines. So if you get onto YouTube, if you search through YouTube, the best way to find workshop videos is to actually get onto YouTube and you use the search term BloodHound Workshop, and then whatever you're looking for afterwards. So if I type in trigger, yeah, here you go. So here's a couple. So there's one here, the small and large trigger pullback entry system, comparing the trigger bar. Let's see, that's not the next gen trigger. Let's see, let's see. I know there's some. This is probably this may be the only workshop where I actually the theme of the workshop involved the trigger lines, but I know I did some others, so it may not be in the title, but you may find I mentioned the trigger lines in the description. Alright, so Scott, hopefully that should help you out there. And see, Jeff has a suggestion. He's saying the ZELLMA trigger lines are pretty good too. So Jeff, I take it, I haven't heard of that one. I take it you mean the zero lag MA trigger lines? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Jeff is meaning the zero lag EMA trigger lines work pretty good too. Yep, I played around with those for a little bit. Alright, so Julie's asking, do you have a way to stop a strategy from trading after a profit target is realized? So Julie, to clarify your question, are you asking for, do you mean just a profit target, so if you're using Raven? Okay, good. Thank you, Julie. So Julie's kind of clarified here. So Julie's saying just a total profit. Yeah, say if you say hit 100-day, $100 profit for the day. So Julie, not yet. That's what Falcon will have incorporated into it. So that has to be built into the strategy in order to check how much profit or loss you've made for the day. That can only come from a strategy, so that can't actually be built into BloodHound. That data is not available to an indicator. So net profit or loss for the day is only available in a strategy. So that will have to be written into Raven. I mean, not Raven, I'm sorry, into Falcon. So no, Raven won't have that capability, but Falcon will. So Scott is asking, is Falcon just a name or a projected upgrade to Raven? Or will it be different than Raven? So Scott, it will be a different product. It will be a strategy. So you could consider it an upgraded version of Raven, but it will be a standalone, separate product. So that's why we're calling it Raven. We don't want to introduce more confusion with product names, so we decided to just give it, we were thinking about providing different upgrades to Raven, but I think that would just be too confusing for people. So we're going to go back to the Falcon name and just create a separate product. Alright, so Celso's asking, can BloodHound read time? Say I only want signals between 7 a.m. and after 11. I only want signals between 7 a.m. and after 11 a.m. Alright, so yes, Celso, yes. BloodHound has a time session solver that can do that. So I'll use this chart over here to do that. And just a sec. It looks like Jeremy's really needed the data feed, so I'm scanning through here to see if there's any other scanning through to see if I need to get into Raven anymore. Looks like I don't, so just a second, guys, while I let Jeremy know. Okay. Alright, so back to Celso's question here about, let's see, allowing your system to only operate during certain time periods of the day. So there we go. Alright, so let's build, alright, let me load up that little test system here, and let's switch over to the simple reversal system. Close that out so that way I can hit F5, refresh my chart. Alright, so we can see that we've got lots of signals here. And let's switch this over to a daily chart. Alright, so let's go to a 5-minute chart. Okay, so here's a 5-minute chart. Let's see. Sorry guys, Jeremy's asking me a question here, so alright, so Celso, let's work on getting this time session solver in here. Alright. Now, so I'll go to my list of solvers and go down here to the time session solver, and I'm going to plug this guy in here. I'm going to plug it straight in. Right, you can see I have just the default, and it goes to the default 24/7. So let's change this. Alright, so this is NinjaTrader's session manager. Alright, so if you've created any custom sessions in here, they will show up in here. And to give an example, let's take a look at the, let's see, I'm trying to pick one here that kind of has a short trading period. Let's see, let's take a look at, how about, yeah, the NYMEX Energy regular trading hours. Right, so that's just from Eastern Time, 9 a.m. to 2:30. All right, so we'll click on that one. So now if I scroll through the chart, right, so now we can see, remember that session template started at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'm on Mountain Time, so that's 7 o'clock my time. So we can see that the time session solver is giving us an output, right, during that time session. And then it stops when the session, well, let's see, oh, let me go back a day. Let me go back to yesterday. There we go. So yeah, 12:30, right? 12:30 my time is 2:30 on the East Coast. So if I can, so this solver here, right, represents my crazy trading system here, right? All these trading signals. So now if I join those two solvers together with an AND node, let me shrink up the chart a lot. So now watch, as soon as I connect this time session into the AND node, now you can see it eliminated all of the signals outside of the regular trading hours for the NYMEX. And so also what you'll want to do is you'll want to now, yeah, oops, keep in mind, you'll see that whenever you open up the session manager, for some reason it always goes back to the default 24/7 for some reason. So I would have to go back and put it back on the NYMEX regular energy. So it's also, if you wanted to make a custom session template, you know, you just have to learn how to use the session manager. And what I'm going to do is copy this, and I'll just call this, you know, my example. And one thing I did is that you see I put this underscore, right, this underline here in front of the name, and that's just for convenience. So because all of these, right, all the names are sorted alphabetically, and so you can see that it put this up on the top. It put it up on top. So that underscore is just kind of a way of cheating the alphabetical order of things. And you know, then what I can do is go in here and let's put 10:30 a.m. We'll get these switched over here quickly. Oh, and let's see, don't forget to save it. There we go. And now you can see it modified the signals. So now I only have signals from 9 to 10:30. Alright, so good. Alright, looks like that answered Celso's question. You're welcome there. Let's see, Andrew's asking, can Raven get me into a position as soon as I launch it in the direction of the strategy? Yes, I believe it can. You know, I'm kind of leery of doing that, but it takes some, so Andrew, it takes some changes to NinjaTrader. NinjaTrader does not allow that by default. So if we go into, let's see, I believe options here. So we have to go into NinjaTrader's options and turn something on. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So I believe, Andrew, I believe this is what will do it. Is this immediately submit live working historical orders. So Andrew, I would play around with this setting and Raven, obviously, you know, in a simulation account, and see if that accomplishes your goal there. I believe that's the setting you're looking for. Let's see, Mike. Mike, I'm sorry, I don't remember what your earlier question was. So Mike is saying such as a pivot level S1. So it looks like Mike, since you're talking about pivot levels, I'll give you kind of a generic answer to that. So if you're dealing with, let's see. Let me add a pivot indicator on here. So Mike, if you're working with some type of pivot indicator, whether it be the Woody's pivots, you know, the Murray Math, or these pivots, all right, let's see, we're on daily, and that's a 5-minute. Alright, so I'll need to switch this over to intrabar data. Alright, so here's the pivot line. So so Mike, if you're, let's see. Okay, thank you, Mike. So Mike kind of helped add to the question. So he's saying it was about proximity to a pivot line, the moving average. Okay, yeah. So you know that moving average bounce system that we've been using today. You know, you could change that over to use one of these pivot lines. You know, it's only going to work with one pivot line at a time. You know, but if you duplicate the logic in multiple, so you'd have to duplicate the logic. So I guess I'll have to load this back up. So let me load this back up. And let's look at the entry logic. So these guys here, right, are kind of what's determining when price is near, you know, some kind of, in this case, it's the EMA 100, and I should change this back to the EMA 55. But what I could do, right, is switch over to that pivot indicator, and I could select which pivot line I want to work with. So if I want to work with the S1, right, I could select the S1 plot, and you'll notice that you can only select one at a time. So what I would have to do is essentially take this logic and make copies of it. You have to make copies of this whole logic for each of these pivot lines that you want to work with, and that's how you would accomplish that. or something else that you can work with is you can work with the support resistance solver here. Right, so there is a training video on this support resistance solver. Right, to get to that training video, let's look at the documentation. So I'm going to click on documentation, right, and it's going to open up the web page here, and under BloodHound reference section here, you'll see here's all the solvers, and here's the support and resistance solver. So I can click on that link, and it takes me to the documentation for the support and resistance. So you can read about all the settings, but also down here, if I keep scrolling down, here's the tutorial video for it, and there's even some examples of how to use it, of using it. Alright, so yeah, so there you go, Mike. So here's another, probably, unless you're only using, one or two of their pivot lines, if you're using, a whole bunch of pivot lines, you may want to look into using the support resistance solver. So it just kind of makes it a little more convenient. Right, it makes it a little more convenient because first thing what I had to do is you'll see this user indicator is set to false. So if I want to use a pivot indicator with this solver, I'll have to turn it to true, and you'll see this section now appears, and so now I can switch the indicator over to the pivots, and if I want to, I can use the select all. So the support resistance solver is the only one that has this select all, and so I can use all of the pivot lines in one solver, and click OK. And then you just have to go through and set up the support resistance solver in the way that you want to use it. And you may want to be using it in tailwind mode. Kind of sounds like it just on the surface. So watch the video. The video will explain the difference between tailwind and headwind mode, and also the example on the documentation page. Right, so these examples show you headwind mode and tailwind mode examples there. Right. Okay, good. I think that gets Mike going. Yeah, it looks like I got through everybody's questions. Okay, thank you guys, and yeah, I hope the rest of your 2014 is a good one.